Mr. Speaker, my question was about the comments from Samir Karakechi in Liverpool and why the people of Liverpool are having to suffer these great cuts. Liverpool has asked to meet the government on 4 occasions. The crisis is so bad that until yesterday, Mr. Speaker, David Hodge, the Conservative leader of Surrey County Council, planned to hold a referendum for a 15% increase in council tax. And at the last minute, it was called off. Can the Prime Minister tell the House whether or not a special deal was done for Surrey?
The decision as to whether or not to hold a referendum in Surrey is entirely a matter for the local authority in Surrey County Council. But I say the Right Honourable Gentleman has raised the issue of social care, which we've exchanged on across this dispatch box before. And as I've said before, we do need to find a long-term sustainable solution for social care in this country. So I recognise the short-term pressures. That's why we have enabled local authorities to put more money into social care. We have provided more money. Over the next 2 years, £900 million more pounds will be available for social care. But we also need to look at ensuring that good practice is spread across the whole of the country. We can look at places like Barnsley, North Tyneside, St Helens, Rutland. Towards the end of last year, there were virtually no delayed discharges attributable to social care in those councils. But we also need to look long-term, and that's why the Cabinet Office is driving a review with the relevant departments to find a sustainable solution, which the Labour Party ducked for far too long.
Mr. Speaker, my question was whether there had been a special deal done for Surrey. The leader said they'd had many conversations with the government. We know they have, because I've been leaked copies of texts sent by the Tory leader David Hodge, intended for somebody called Nick, who works for ministers in the Department of Communities and Local Government. And these texts read, "I'm advised that DCLG officials have been working on a solution and you will be contacting me to agree a memorandum of understanding." Will the government now publish this memorandum of understanding? And while they're about it, will all councils be offered the same deal?
What we have given all councils is the opportunity to raise a 3% precept on the council tax for that to go into social care. He talks about understanding. What the Labour Party fails to understand, what the Labour Party...
Order! There's far too much noise. Mr. Pound, calm yourself. You're supposed to be a senior statesman. And order! And Mr. Rotherham, you should reserve your shouting for the stands at Anfield. The Prime Minister.
As I say, all councils have the opportunity to raise the 3% precept, to put that funding into the provision of social care. What the Labour Party fails to understand is that this is not just a question of looking at money, it is a question of looking at spreading best practice and finding a sustainable solution. And I have to say to him that if we look at social care provision across the entire country, the last thing social care providers need is another one of Labour's bouncing cheques.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if it's anything to do with the fact that the Chancellor and Health Secretary both represent Surrey constituencies. But, Mr. Speaker, there was a second text from Surrey County Council leader to Nick, and in the second text it says the numbers you indicated are the numbers that I understand are acceptable for me to accept and call off the R. Now, I've been reading a bit of John le Carre, and apparently R means referendum. It's very subtle, all this. And he goes on to say in his text to Nick, if it is possible for that info to be sent to myself, I can then revert back soonest, really want to kill this off. So how much did the government offer Surrey to kill this off? And is the same sweetheart deal on offer to every council facing the social care crisis created by her government?
I've made clear to the right honourable gentleman what has been made available to every council, which is the ability to raise the precept. And I have to say to him...
Order! As colleagues know, I never mind how long Prime Minister's questions take. The questions must be heard and the answers must be heard. The Prime Minister.
I have to say to him, he comes to the dispatch box making all sorts of claims. Yet again, what we get from Labour are alternative facts. What they really need is an alternative leader.
Mr. Speaker, my question was, what deal had been offered to Surrey that got them to call off a referendum, and will the same deal be offered to every other council going through a social care crisis? Mr. Speaker, hospital wards are overcrowded. 1 million people aren't getting the care they need, and family members, mostly women, are having to give up work to care for loved ones. Every day that the Prime Minister fails to act, this crisis gets worse. So will she finally come clean and provide local authorities with the funding they need to fund social care properly, so that our often elderly and vulnerable people can be treated with the support and dignity that they deserve in a civilised society?
The deal that is on offer to all councils is the one that I've already set out. But let me just be very clear with the right honourable gentleman, because, as ever, he stands up and consistently asks for more spending, more money, more funding. What he always fails to recognise, is that you can only spend money on social care and on the National Health Service if you have a strong economy to deliver the wealth that you need. There is a fundamental difference between us. When I talk...
Order! I'm sorry, there's still too much noise in the chamber. People observing our proceedings here and outside want the questions heard and the answers heard, and they will be. The Prime Minister.
There is a difference between us. When I talk about £500 billion, that's the money we'll be spending on the NHS this Parliament. When Labour talk about £500 billion, it's the money they want to borrow. Conservatives investing in the NHS, Labour bankrupting Britain.